Regarding the Bible, and that means translations, especially those in English language, I would rather recommend to read it just from the beginning. But we have a great problem in it.
And that means information compression and complexity. When we read along, then we understand
that there was a great flood. And that makes it understandable why the data regarding the events before this great flood remains somehow compressed, and therefore there happens to be a great complexity in it that shouldn't be underestimated. So anyone could scratch their heads about it and dismiss it as a tale, whatever, and dismiss it because it looks quite illogical and not much understandable in terms of logical conclusions one can draw of just because of corrupted translations. I have already gotten into some details in a previous video that I've made, and it's called Retrieving Religious Thought. But now that I thought of it, I have to realize, of course, it only makes sense for people who have a political agenda to exploit this condition of the Bible, that it can be corrupted in translation, and it even looks viable when it gets corrupted, because one could claim, yes, it was the translator, he made mistakes, what can we do? Then they shrug their shoulders, and that's just it. They don't need to feel responsible officially. I've been confused, especially in my previous video that I made, because could it be that sin can be inheritable? Not officially. The consensus says sin cannot be inherited, but when I'm reading my German edition of a Bible translation, then I realize, what? They call this Erbsünde, what happened to Adam and Eve. You see? When we're beginning to read the Bible and we're doing it the right way, then we start with the book of Genesis. And when we're reading along, we stumble over a very, very dangerous thing. And that was about giants. Now, I wouldn't like to get into details, though I watched a couple of videos, documentary videos about giants, and I will know these giants cannot be dismissed as a joke. Doesn't work anymore, though it can definitely be rated as a very, let's say, difficult topic because of, I would rather say, secrets we don't know where they come from, what organizations are behind this, but they all have to do with museums worldwide. So when museums collect these items, and I don't want to get into details what items, then they're being regarded as something that has to do with secrecy. And I don't know what organizations are behind this, but they're just being kept secret, and there has been an agenda to lie to the public about it. I've been lied to, my family members have been lied to. Too late for them, and I'm very sorry about my family members, but too late. Nevertheless, when we read on, there's even a greater thing. It's the great flood. And when we're just thinking about it, there happens to be a great complexity, and it can be understandable. Since the great flood happened, data already has been lost, you can guess. And so the data that remains also remains in a form of higher complexity. Higher complexity includes data compression for good reasons. So on one hand, only the elect can find out the true interpretations of what's written in the book of Genesis. And the others, they fail, but they have a great opportunity, and that means to continue with their lives. They can feed lies to the people. And you know, they can create a big religion out of it, call it world religion. They get away with it. They can have billions today. Billions of humans getting into this, what's called world religion. You know, they can be fed with the lies, and their problem. What shouldn't be what I'm hanging out with. And for the Great Flood, same thing happened as with the giants. History, written in books, has been faked. But the people eat up these lies, and they are so tuned into it, they cannot get out of it. They love being lied to, and there's no way out. Most of people, they love it this way. No way out. If you confront them with the truth, get lost. They don't love it this way. We call it somehow mental conditioning or something. They have, of course, been research projects about mental conditioning. It really exists. It works. And it works in most of human brains. So, they have been conditioned. They don't get out of it. They love being lied to. So what can I tell? When I'm talking about the truth, it doesn't work for the masses. But anyways, I don't need to create videos for the masses. I can create videos for anyone really with a vested interest in the truth, for whatever reason. So, the Great Flood truly happened, and a quick development after it, including the development of new giants, I guess. But these things are actually secrets, so I can only guess. And if I said for sure, well, then what's behind? Also our guesses, nothing else. Nevertheless, I'm not trying to make up a conspiracy in here. No. Actually, I'm just talking about facts. And that means we don't have this natural selection. And there are other functions in evolution, such as genetic interpretation. Give it a better name, and the people wouldn't like it. Because, they want to be lied to, also in terms of genetics. Or rather, they even need to be lied to, because, their brains are conditioned this way. And it only makes sense because when we have found out that a true theory really works in reality, so we couldn't call it a theory anymore, then we couldn't enhance it with our fantasies, and therefore we couldn't get that much creative. So people, naturally, they prefer lies to the truth. In a German Martin Luther based translation of the Bible, we could even find some extra notes in it, and one of them indicate that inheritable sin exists because of what's called Erbsünde, inheritable sin. Now, these are Christian translations, and what does that mean? That the Christian church got behind it, and they would like you to understand sin can be inherited. But one could say the prophets already said that they have been revealed by the Most Holy. They could get free of sin, and the first one who really did was Enoch. Now, here we have a biggie in it, and therefore I recommend the complete book of Enoch. Really recommendable in any case. But many people have a great interest to make sure that the public believes this book could be only described as great fraud. And I've already checked out how it has been accomplished, to wrongly inform the public about a great fraud that really never happened, but officially gets published as fraud. What can I do? It works this way: just to use interpretations of the Holy Scriptures that are actually only reserved for a specific group of people. And that means a smaller group of people who have a real contract with the Most Holy, as an exclusive contract, not the general contract described in the first book of Moses. In other words, people who normally should have no business, and that normally means when they're doing righteous deeds, from my point of view, no business just to make any interpretation about the complete Holy Scriptures known to the public, but leave it to a smaller religious group who has already a specific contract, only being described in the second book of Moses and the books afterwards, written by maybe not only Moses, but priests. And in the original, not even priests. But I'm not getting into detail. Those people who know wouldn't tell easily. And I wouldn't tell it with my mouth. I would rather shut up. I can tell it with my heart. Some critics were dealing with interpretations and they have no business dealing with them, but they do it anyways. In an unrighteous way, they're doing it to criticize the complete book of Enoch. Call it a fraud and get away with it for some time. But they wouldn't get away with it forever. Not even for a long time, as already described in the book of Enoch itself. And therefore, I would rather say in the complete book of Enoch, because there we have nice translation that really works. Anyways, it wouldn't be hard to do it with a very high amount of intelligence. I mean, just to understand, that Enoch was the first one who really wouldn't fit into the description of somebody who wasn't in the position to overcome inheritable sin. In fact, he was. And of course, we have lots of fakers who are just faking history, who are just faking interpretations of the Holy Scriptures content, who are just faking whatever. From a historical point of view, they're not getting away with it for a long time. And I guess this trend has to continue until all unrighteous people are finished. Yes, the mass media really corrupted a good deal about what I imagined as true regarding the book of Genesis. I had the idea only two pairs of an animal species, of each animal species, entered into the ark. There was nothing in television, in newspaper, in magazines, not even in, the normal understandable books, children's books, books for teenagers, what have you, easy to read literature, fiction books with some truth in it, some viable information about history, what have you, No, these books were not there. These books are fiction right now. There was nothing. There was no information about these important events. Giants, of course, top secret, shut up about it. The flood, top secret, shut up about it. That's what the mass media had to do. They delivered it, dumbing me down, my son, my stepson, my wife. They even don't recognize this. They're using fiction content in computer games, what have you. They don't understand what's going on in this world. They probably will never learn. No? But what they learned in school was just their teachers are more important than their own parents. Far more important in terms of education in any case. So I had no say, and I still have no say. In other words, my own family members don't believe what I'm saying. They will probably never believe it. They don't listen to what I'm saying. What can I do? I'm finished. They are finished. And I don't like it this way. As a young pupil, I've been more years in private school than public school, and that tuition paid off. There were some lessons in a religion class for a couple of months, and that was all that was needed to make me understand what was important, and that means the law written in the Holy Scriptures. So I had a chance my family members didn't have. They don't have a chance like me. They never had a chance that I had. I'm really sorry for them. Really sorry. Make sure to teach their little children about translations of what's called the Bible, and these translations should be used to gain an understanding about what's sin, and even most of translations are definitely not very reliable because these translations are not accurate enough. And there are lots of translation failures, to say the least, if not manipulations. So what can I say? With this, anyways, one can get a certain understanding regarding what's inheritable sin, because we already know the solution against it. The law from the Most Holy should be followed, and we should keep it in our hearts to do it in a righteous way. When we are doing it, we can overcome inheritable sin, and that's all.
And for sure, that doesn't mean those people who are already elect, because they already overcame inheritable sin, and they wouldn't inherit sin. They don't do it. Here we go.
Yes, they cannot inherit sin, but they wouldn't say that others couldn't inherit sin. My interpretation, believe it or not, do whatever you want with it.
And by the way, the giants in the earth, weren't they old? They were. But were they also righteous? Doesn't look like they were.
We gotta have to do some research in here. I'm joking. Of course we shouldn't. We should do some research. We should rather do research about the animals that were being led into the ark, because it wasn't like that only two pairs of each species got there, and that there wasn't a distinction between clean and non-clean animals, and what that means, not in terms of hygienic measures for them, but something in terms of genetic measures. You gotta understand this, and then we can continue with a nice chat about inheritable sin. Plant-bearing seeds were regarded as food for humans and animals. When they ate something else, they already inherited sin. They could also eat fruit, not only the seeds, but not all fruit. Certainly not all. There was one big exception. Only one. But we know the rest already. Therefore, we have to take over more responsibility than ever before regarding our own food. Otherwise we are inheriting sin. Or rather, most people are doing it. While we have big world religions who say all people inherit sin without this or that prophecy from one specific false prophet. They wouldn't say false prophet, but they're lying. That's how it works. Start eating non-animal based food at a young age. Or can it only be inherited by reincarnation? When we eat the right food, we couldn't inherit this in a genetic way. So reincarnation may be the only way to inherit sin. The thought of it would make people very uncomfortable because they would see this as an existential risk. Like a spirit that contains memories of a formerly living person hijacks your brain, installs the memories of the formerly living person in your own brain, overrides your personality with the personality of somebody who lived before. This kind of hijacking would be a threat to you. You will try to get away with whatever you can do just to avoid this, because you don't like just to take that risk that your own personality gets hijacked. You wouldn't like it this way. And therefore reincarnation can be a really troublesome subject. But people wouldn't just believe that it could also happen as a partial reincarnation. So that a spirit has some memories, and hijacks only parts of your brain, installs only some memories, and so you will have the person that you was before, and you share your personality of a formerly deceased person. Formerly, because now this person lives, but only as some kind of partial life, because half of your memories already retrievable and half of somebody else's memories who hijacked your brain, or rather parts of it, retrievable. And this could be the setting of a partial reincarnation, and people won't just think about it, but it can happen. Those people who have experiences with this, they would shut up in public, because it would be against what people expect from science. Nobody would like science to go into the direction where it becomes an existential risk to the people, or becomes something that they anticipate as an existential risk. So what? It would be against the official mainstream scientific consensus. The official mainstream scientific consensus would look like this: reincarnation doesn't exist, even when it exists. Because in practical ways, science works like this: if people perceive something as an existential risk, they don't want scientists to write about it. Even this thing works behind the scene. Oh, by the way, I've not even yet used an internet search engine to check out whether any friggin' paper about reincarnation, whether peer-reviewed or not, even exists. Don't expect anything social from me, like, a young fellow who lost, precious opportunities in life because of an accident, tries, to reinstall memories and just have some sort of life extension. I got something better to do but searching for reincarnation groups And that means warming up this nice rice with sauerkraut, green beans, some tomato in it. Yeah, I mean, you say, yo, I'm not eating any freaking animal product like meat.
I'm just talking like Mr. Bunky. And Mr. Bunky says, hey, I'm that guy who partially reincarnated into this guy called Robomoon. But guess what? I keep a low profile. Otherwise, it would freak out Robomoon that he really realizes he got a freaking partial reincarnation already happening to him for a long time. I mean, isn't that something?
Man, we have so much evidence because of this paper and that paper that reincarnation could not be in any ways possible. Here we go.
Yeah, in fact, any uncircumcised blogger could do this today to create a website and call reincarnation a debunked subject. Therefore, you know what? I'm eating this meatless, milkless stuff and call your freaking meatballs debunked.
It could be possible that a partial reincarnation of me was in the former life somebody who surfed together with the famous server legend called Bunk. Try to debunk that one.
And why does it happen that I'm putting more than necessary pea protein and hemp protein powder into my bowl for my muesli? I'm not a sports guy at all.
Why did it happen that when I was younger than 6 years old, I already wanted to become a singer in a kind of pop music band or whatever, a bit rock music, and dance a lot, and later also combine it with semi-professional windsurfing and make it a combined sports and entertainment and music. Why did I try to do that while I lived in the middle of Germany? Was incapable in terms of my very limited health condition to do any friggin' sports.
I always tried and failed. And it doesn't match with what people expect with a world where reincarnation couldn't be possible.
I'm joking. Of course, I'm talking about partial reincarnation. Now I have to finish my breakfast. Alright, I searched for something at least, and I found an academic journal article. The Mystery of Reincarnation article excerpt. Yeah, reincarnation a mystery. Yo, that's what we all thought, huh? Because reincarnation is not strictly applicable as a term. Isn't that something? For example, if one has done a lot of divine service and has a desire to do more service at the time of death, his soul chooses a family that is supportive for his desire for rebirth.
So my parents and I, we had trouble with each other, and I guess they also wished that I would be somebody else. So we were supportive in one way or another.
The greatest blessings to the absolutely merciful, powerful, and holy Lord of Spirits, as described in the wonderful complete book of Enoch. Nowadays, after the Great Flood, also known as the Lord of Hosts for the Israelites, who became the very son after further sons for what should be in heaven.
Today, something very strange and new happened to me. I was thinking about something complicated. What does ethics mean? And I got this book, Rechtschreibung, correct spelling, that means, including some explanations.
It had to do with moral and conduct regarding, achieving moral and good customs.
Also in terms of law, like a constitution. And there's something I even remember. In German, die Würde des Menschen ist unantastbar. Man, what does that mean in English? Like, you shouldn't touch human dignity. I mean, how could you touch it? Like, grab. Now I was just hurting your dignity. Doesn't even work. Therefore, it's complicated, and therefore they're using this ethics. Then I thought, could this even apply to me? And I said, no way. For example, when I was a kindergarten kid, I went to kindergarten, and then we played, and somebody took my toys. Another kid took my toys. I grabbed my toys, took them back to me. And then this kid reacted. He bit into my leg. He bit so hard, like, yeah. After this, I had a wound. The kindergartners, they needed just to apply some balm on it. I remember it really hurts, yo. And then I had a big bite mark with lots of teeth marks on my leg, yo. And, is this something to do with ethics or human dignity? I learned something from it. Don't play with toys. Because, after this, you get into a situation that really hurts. The kindergartners, they quickly found out I was the dumbest kid in town. So you know what? They had to transfer me to a private kindergarten. And so, when I was in this private kindergarten, it wasn't that I touched any toy, you see, but the kindergartners did that. They had these little nuts, and they put this nut on some kind of, what was it, a slide. And then the nut was rolling down and further, and then it dropped onto another slide, and then rolled and dropped to another slide, and then it came to the ground. And then the kid picked it up, ate it. But I remember when I was in this private kindergarten, then they had real breakfast after eating a nut. Anyways, and then I remember I was eating, and then all the children around me started just chanting one chant, Kleckerlese, 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 and they all looked at me. And what Kleckerlese means translated, Klecker means if you drop some food on your shirt or what have you, your clothing, After this, I didn't have a bite mark on me or whatever. Not even a single scratch, but it still hurt. Of course, it was hurting my pride. How could this have something to do with dignity? Not to mention human dignity. Nothing. Sometimes it feels, like I had more than only a scratch on my head. There was a lot of damages that happened over the years. That got there. But nevertheless, somebody was really hitting my eye when I guess I was already a young adult there. And then I had to go down. In fact, I was laying down on the ground. Yeah, that was really what really hurt. And then I had to lay low for in a bed for 2 weeks. Some uncomfortable sometimes this eye. You see, therefore, but how to hurt dignity? You cannot punch it directly and hurt it. Doesn't work. That somebody like me doesn't only spill the food, Kleckern in German, but also gets punched on the eye with no consequences whatever. They have enough witnesses that say, hey, nobody punched his eye. He punched his eye himself. I'm just dumb in terms of intelligence and weak in terms of muscles, so I don't have anything to do in human society. You cannot hurt my human dignity. I don't belong to human beings. It doesn't work this way. What was I talking about? Now I remember. I was just talking about partial reincarnation. Before this, I talked about clean and unclean animals, and that I needed to do some more research. I said we should do some research, but since I'm not among human beings, it's just me and the animals. They had to get sacrificed. Only one animal per species, I guess. in only the clean animals, and to the degree when they are becoming ashes, is a burnt sacrifice.
In Genesis 3, verse 14, our absolutely holy Lord said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, cursed art thou from among all cattle, and from among all beasts of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. For sure, they didn't like to become the food of serpents by our ancestors. So if I would have to say in terms of their dignity, not mine, I would rather assume they didn't want that to happen. A translation from the Masoretic text. It's Genesis 9, verse 24. And Noah awoke from the wine and knew what his youngest son had done unto him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of Sem, and so on. Canaan, that was not his youngest son.
So Ham went into his father's tent, and when he got out, he told his brother something humiliating about his father. His father found out. That was the reason why Ham got cursed, or rather, Ham's son got the curse. Yo, that was bad, huh?
Was it against Canaan's dignity? Because, he directly received inheritable sin. You hang with them, you gang with them.